Hey guys, Static here, and today on Dungeon Guide we're going to be covering Veteran Hard Mode Cradle of Shadows. Here in COS there's a lot of Nightblade variety adds. The casters can shoot AoE circles which can CC your group. Anytime you find totems in the mobs of this dungeon, you're going to want your DPS to break off and take care of them immediately. These totems not only buff the enemies, but can also put out their own offensive AoE circles on the ground. This large spinning circle on the ground is a Nightblade ultimate ability. It's a Veil of Blades. Try and pull the mobs outside of this circle as it greatly reduces the damage they take. After clearing this area, head down this hallway to enter the Spider Caves. Down below we're introduced to the light and dark mechanic in this dungeon. Spending time in the dark puts these shadows around the edge of your screen. This damages and snares you. Lighting and standing in the braziers not only remove this debuff, but it's also the only area that the adds down in these caverns are able to be damaged. If your tank is a Dragon Knight, chains really help to pull these adds into the light. If your tank's not a DK, just have them pull aggro and run past the light in order to place them in the circle. Fun fact, neither of the Hiss dungeons have named unique items that drop. The first thing I like to do in this fight is to preemptively light all of the 3 braziers in this room. As the fight progresses, the lights will be going out and you'll have to move to the next brazier. It's nice to have these already lit ahead of time. Immediately after this boss is engaged, you'll notice spiders stringing down from the ceiling. These spiders follow the same mechanic of not being able to be damaged unless they're pulled into the circle of light. The boss's attacks are pretty basic other than her channeled, which you can keep bashed at close range. The only time this attack might be difficult to interrupt is after one of the braziers go out and you're on your way to the next one. It's important to call it out and move immediately to the next brazier as it goes out, because your group will really start taking heavy damage from the shadows if you don't. The spiders from the ceiling are summoned based upon her HP percentages. If your group is having a hard time wrangling them into the circles of light, or just clearing them in general, you may want to slow down damage on the boss and try and take care of them. As we move to our last brazier, the boss finally gets off her channeled attack as she's too far away to interrupt. That's what these lightning strikes are. As I said before, as long as you stay close to her, you should be able to keep this interrupted 100% of the time. The first thing that's really helpful in this fight is if your tank can slot a gap closer. Her first attack is a heavy attack, which is actually a cleave, and I forget this because it's been a while since I've been here and I die. The next attack you're going to want to watch out for is this giant AoE. This will be a one-shot on most players. Immediately after this attack, she's going to teleport. This is where the gap closer comes in handy for the tank. Typically, right after teleporting, she's going to be charging a channeled attack which will attack the entire group, and it hurts quite a bit. So whether it's the tank or not, someone needs to get to her in a hurry and interrupt her. You'll notice that when the boss heavy attacks, our tank opts to dodge roll rather than try and block through it. The reason he does this is even if you block through her heavy attack, it does a lot of damage, so you're better off just dodge rolling. The next mechanic of this fight involves these braziers. If they go out, try and light them as quickly as possible, as if you don't, adds will start spawning from these locations. Here you'll notice a couple braziers getting extinguished on the far side and one doesn't get relit. Missing one isn't that big of a deal, but if you miss multiple you'll really get overrun in a hurry because each one can give 5 or 6 adds. So it's not a bad idea to designate one player to just making sure that these braziers stay lit. After defeating this boss you'll no longer have to worry about the shadow mechanic from the light and dark areas of the dungeon. As you surface from the spider caves, don't forget to pull this lever. If you forget, you can't open up the door to the next boss. This boss has some simple mechanics, but you have to respect them or else it's a hard fight. The first thing you need to know is that this boss has a healing mechanic. If any dead body is on the ground, whether it's your party or if it's one of these adds, she may try and feast on this body which heals her rapidly. This is interruptible, so bash her. These adds are summoned just to snare you, making it more difficult to get out of this AoE attack, which is a one-shot for most players. She also places these AoEs on the ground which deal poison damage, so just try and stay out of those. Your tank needs to watch for her tail for the heavy attack, which looks like she's gathering spiderweb. She will always do her giant AoE directly after her heavy attack. This fight has a lot of mechanics and can be very difficult for a lot of groups. The first tip I would suggest is to always fight the boss back here close to the door. The reason for this is that statue hanging from the middle of the room will have AoEs shooting out of it. These hit extremely hard and will be a one-shot for most players. The farther you and your group are from the statue, the more time you have to react for that attack to hit the ground. When the boss turns red like this, he is no longer damageable. He's going to put shades of himself all around the room. Inside of each of them is an essence that if you kill them, you can touch to return to the boss. Returning all of his essence will revert him back to being damageable. There is a trick to this, however. If your tank is a DK, it makes it very easy. We'll showcase this on the next time he enters this phase. After returning all of his essences, be sure to pull him back to this edge of the room again. For this next attack, he gap closes to each party member, leaving a damaging rune on the ground. As long as your tank taunted previous to this attack, he will be chosen and chained down by adds, and they must be interrupted in order to free him. Immediately after being freed, I suggest your tank sprints and dodge rolls away from this boss as he'll try to do an execute attack. Now it's time to show the trick behind this add phase. A lot of people don't know this, but if the boss touches these adds, he automatically kills them and consumes their essence. Though it's not needed, Dragon Knight tanks have an edge here because they have chains. One attack I haven't mentioned yet is the spinning attack that this boss has. It's a little buggy and you can be outside of the red circle and still get killed like I do here. The hardest aspect of this fight, in my opinion, is recovering. Trying to get a res off in this fight is near impossible. If the meteors don't get you, it's going to be the runes that get you. In a lot of tough resing situations in dungeons, I usually suggest keeping immovable pots on your bar. However, in this case, it's really not going to help you because it's not stunning mechanics preventing you from getting these reses off, it's just sheer damage. One tip I would suggest is to have your healer put barrier on the back bar. This shield is big enough that you can take a hit from these explosions and you can get the res off. Later on in the fight, the meteors are placed more often, so watch out for their explosion and the waves that emanate from them. Furthermore, during the last add phase, the statue is really pumping out these waves, so be careful. If your tank is using the trick of running the boss through the adds, it's much easier because he can take some of these hits. Your DPS and healer, on the other hand, really get hit hard by these. After returning the last essence, these waves from the statue do not stop. This just confirms that you should be fighting him back towards the door as you have more room to weave between them the further you are from the statue. Down the next hallway, we're introduced to the Ogrims for the first time. The main attack you want to avoid here is their conal. It's like a poison vomit. Your safest place for your DPS is to just stay behind him. If you ever find yourself in front of an Ogrim and you have the aggro on them, they have a belly bounce attack which will CC you. These casters have an interesting mechanic as they can teleport, leaving a shade of themselves behind. They also gain a large damage shield when they do this. This next room is a dangerous pull with a lot of adds, so it's a good idea to go ahead and pull them back through this gate and burn them down using line of sight. This really cuts down on the amount of time it takes to clear this room. This area with the dead Atronach is just here to teach you how to use your synergy to pick up a light. You'll need to do this on the last boss fight, so get comfortable with the synergy. Hard mode is activated by defiling Velidreth's altar at the far side of the room. Before we start this fight, I'd like to explain the RNG factors of it. At 65% HP and 35% HP, your group will be split up into two groups. One group will get sent to the north of this map, one to the south. You notice these thin passageways on these maps. These are doors. Only one of these doors will be open at a time. The north map has 4 doors and the south has 3. On non-hard mode, you'll have a couple of these doors open, greatly increasing your chances of finding the open door. On hard mode, you don't have that luxury. I suggest making a plan ahead of time with your group as to which door you're going to check first. We've chosen to go with the left door and then work our way to the right. This prevents ever having to backtrack. While you're trying to make your way back through this maze, you're going to be chased by Horvers and other adds that pop up. The Horvers start out slow and increase in speed over time. If you take too long, they will catch you and kill you. Furthermore, the shadow mechanic will be back from the beginning of the dungeon. This is where the lights from those Atronachs come into play. Another trick I suggest, not just having a plan of which direction you're going to go with your group, is to make sure that the two people grabbing the lights have rapids on their bars. That way they will always be split up and both groups will have access to rapids. The first thing you'll notice are these meteors coming out from that statue, with the waves just like we saw in the last boss fight. This only occurs on hard mode. Velidreth chooses a target at random and brings them in and starts eating them. When she does this, it's actually stealing your ultimate. When she starts to twerk, these spores start appearing all over the room. These change from red, blue, or green and will affect your resources according to their color. This debuff is purgeable, so if your Templar is using Ritual, use the synergy from that to remove it from yourself, or you can just have someone slot Purge. While going for a res, make sure you call it out in chat, as Velidreth will try to interrupt your res unless she is bashed. When Velidreth says out loud, "That's it, don't move a muscle," do exactly that. You can still attack adds around the room, you just can't move your feet. Watch Velidreth's body closely here. The second she moves, you dodge roll. When she lands, spikes come up through the ground. If you were caught moving prior to this, the spikes come early and you die. Notice these two large golden rings around me and my buddy. These are the lights that we picked up from killing the Atronachs. Failure to pick up these lights before Velidreth reaches 65% HP is a death sentence. So much of this fight is about focusing on the adds. They are summoned based upon her HP percentages, so if you burn her faster, you're going to get overwhelmed. The only time you want to be 100% on Velidreth is when there are no adds. Here's 65% HP. You'll start seeing the purple around your feet. You're about to get sent. Unfortunately, our healer just went down right before we got teleported. My other two teammates got sent to the north and I'm in the south alone. Normally, your job as the person with the light is to reveal these traps and also to make sure your buddy can keep up with you so they don't get snared by the shadow effect. Because my partner died prior to our teleportation, I can use my full movement speed, which is pretty quick because I'm an orc stamina sorcerer. My counterparts in the north got really lucky and the first door they chose was the open one. Of course, with my luck, it was the last door I checked. But because I was using rapids and not stopping for anything and blowing past the adds, I was able to arrive near the same time as them. Normally as you drop down, the first thing she'll do is start to shake her ass again. This will give you time to get a res off. Nothing changes now for the rest of the fight. You just do everything that you did before a second time. Avoid the meteors, avoid the spores, focus on the adds, and don't forget to pick up those Atronach lights. A couple more things I want to mention about while she's up in the air. If a meteor comes to you, just block. It won't kill you, it'll just take you low on health and your healer can heal you up. Also, don't worry if you dodge roll towards a friendly spike. The only spike that can hurt you in that scenario is the one that was placed under your feet. You can get hit by someone else's and it will do no damage to you. Here we go at 35% on our second teleport. This time I have my buddy with me. It's my job to show him through the traps and to keep the debuff from the shadows off of him by letting him stay in my ring. Our first door we check over to the left is closed. As we turn around and make our way to the open door, he gets stunned by this ad. This is not every man for himself. The success of the group depends on all of us making it back in one piece. I do want to mention that if one group makes it back way before the other, you have to stay far back from the ledge down to Velidreth. If you get too close to the ledge, Velidreth will pull you and your partner down in. So if the other group needs more time, just stay back extra far from this ledge. As you drop back down in, keep your cool. Everyone sees she's in execute range. That's no reason to ignore the adds and ignore the mechanics. You still want to focus on the adds. If you just go straight into burning her down and trying to execute her, you're going to get 3 times the amount of adds and you run the risk of wiping. So be patient here and respect the mechanics. Persistence is always rewarded. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Please smash that like and subscribe button below for future content releases. I really appreciate the support everybody's been showing me. So I want to just say thank you to each and every one of you. It really means a lot to me. See you guys later and catch you next time.